Between October 1st and November 15th, 2024, 37.6 million ounces of silver vanished from COMEX vaults. In just 47 days, registered silver dropped 47%, the largest vault drain since 1980. Back in 1980, silver hit $50 per ounce before COMEX changed the rules mid-game to stop the Hunt brothers, nearly collapsing the futures market. Here's the truth. The Hunt brothers tried to expose a manipulation scheme that had been running for a century, and the system destroyed them for it. On February 14, 2025, major South Korean banks completely stopped selling silver. China banned citizens from buying physical precious metals through banks. Russia got locked out of the London exchange. Right now, something's happening that defies basic market physics. Spot silver is trading higher than futures. People would rather pay extra to get silver immediately than wait 6 months. This only happens in one scenario, when physical supply is bone dry and paper promises are worthless. Why silver matters more than gold? Gold is just money. It sits in vaults storing value. But silver's different. It's both money and the most critical industrial metal in modern technology. Your phone has silver in it. Solar panels need silver. Electric vehicles use 3 times more silver in their electronics than gas-powered cars. Medical devices, 5G infrastructure, missiles, semiconductors. Every technology that defines modern civilization runs on silver. Unlike gold, silver gets consumed. The silver used in electronics can't be economically recovered. It's scattered across landfills. Nearly all the gold ever mined still exists, but silver disappears. We've had supply deficits for 4 straight years. In 2024, the shortage hit 148.9 million ounces, meaning we used 148 million more ounces than we mined. That silver came from existing stockpiles and government reserves, and those reserves are running dry. Research from the University of New South Wales shows that by 2050, the solar panel industry alone could consume 85% to 98% of available silver reserves. We're mining less silver every year while using more. So if silver's this critical, this scarce, and this necessary, why hasn't the price skyrocketed? Because the price has been manipulated for over 150 years. The origins of manipulation started with the crime of 1873, the Coinage Act that kicked silver out of the monetary system, leaving only gold to back currency. Why? Because Nevada mines were producing massive amounts of silver. If silver stayed monetary, the money supply would expand and debts would be easier to pay off. Creditors, banks, and the wealthy wanted money scarce and debts hard to repay. Debtors, farmers, and the middle class got crushed. The 1873 Act was a wealth transfer from debtors to creditors. Deflation followed, crop prices collapsed, and banks got rich. By 1964, silver's market price exceeded the face value of coins, so people started melting them for profit. In 1965, the government passed a new law removing silver from circulation coins. That should have been a signal. The market was telling the truth and the government was lying. But instead of letting silver rise, the government dumped strategic reserves to suppress the price. Why? Because rising silver prices would expose inflation, show the dollar was losing value, and shake confidence in fiat currency. When Nixon closed the gold window in 1971, silver was the ignored warning signal. After silver was completely demonetized, Wall Street created the paper market. COMEX futures, ETFs, certificates, derivatives, all paper claims on physical silver. Here's how the scam works. JP Morgan holds 10 million ounces of physical in their vault, but sells it 100 times over through paper contracts. They issue futures representing 1 billion ounces of silver backed by the same 10 million ounces supporting their ETF. Every ounce of physical has 50 to 100 paper claims against it. As long as most people settle in cash instead of demanding delivery, the system functions. Prices stay suppressed because the market looks like there's unlimited supply. Whenever silver starts climbing, the banks dump paper contracts, the price drops, and the manipulation continues. This manipulation is coordinated by central banks, investment banks, and exchanges. At the top is the Bank for International Settlements, BS, which has a vested interest in suppressing gold and silver prices because rising precious metal prices signal fiat currency failure. Next is the London Bullion Market Association, LBMA, where over-the-counter trading lacks transparency. Then there's COMEX, which can change the rules anytime, and they did exactly that in 1980. In 1979, the Hunt brothers started buying silver because they believed the dollar was collapsing. Inflation hit 13%, and the dollar had become pure fiat. The Hunts accumulated 200 million ounces of silver, buying futures on margin and taking physical delivery, draining COMEX vaults. Silver went from $6 in January 1979 to $49.45 on January 17, 1980. The Hunt brothers were worth billions, and Wall Street went into full panic mode. If the Hunts kept taking delivery, COMEX would run out of silver, the exchange would default, and the paper market would collapse. So COMEX changed the rules. On January 7, 1980, they implemented Silver Rule 7, no new long positions allowed. But silver kept climbing, so COMEX dramatically raised margin requirements, increasing them hundreds of times overnight. On March 27, 1980, Silver Thursday, silver crashed from $21 to $10.80 in a single day. The Hunt brothers lost $1.7 billion and declared bankruptcy. But people who bought physical silver didn't lose. At $10, silver was still 66% higher than the $6 in January 1979. Anyone who bought physical at $6 and held made a fortune. The Hunts failed because they used leverage and trusted COMEX to honor contracts. The lesson: the system will change the rules to save itself. Paper contracts are only worth what the exchange is willing to honor, but physical metal can't be confiscated or stripped away. After the Hunts were destroyed, silver traded between $4 and $8 from 1980 to 2000. The manipulation was so obvious that in 2004, investors filed a class action lawsuit against J.P. Morgan and HSBC. In 2020, J.P. Morgan paid the Department of Justice $920 million to settle charges of price manipulation in precious metals markets. This isn't conspiracy theory, it's documented fact. But did the manipulation stop? No. The fine was less than a year's profit. Suppressing gold and silver prices isn't just about bank profits. It's about maintaining confidence in the entire fiat currency system. But this suppression depends on physical supply, and physical supply is disappearing. On October 1, 2024, COMEX had 80.6 million ounces of registered silver. By December 3, it was down to 43.2 million ounces. That's a loss of 37.4 million ounces in 47 days. This isn't normal profit-taking. This is a bank run, and it's accelerating. On November 17, 6.3 million ounces were withdrawn in a single day. On November 21, another 4.8 million ounces. The vaults are draining faster than they can be replenished. COMEX vaults only have 43 million ounces available for delivery, but there are hundreds of millions of ounces in open futures contracts. If just 20% of contract holders demand delivery, COMEX doesn't have the metal. This is 1,980 in reverse. Back then, two men demanding delivery nearly broke the exchange. Now it's sovereign nations, industrial users, and millions of investors worldwide demanding physical. On February 14, 2025, for major South Korean banks simultaneously suspended physical silver sales. These are banks with hundreds of billions in assets and global supply chains, and they can't source silver. China raised the risk classification for precious metal purchases so citizens can't buy gold or silver through banks. China's hoarding for the state, limiting exports, preparing for a monetary reset. India's silver imports hit records in 2024. Russia, after being banned from the London market, continues buying through other channels and has added to gold reserves every year since 2006. Now we're seeing the ultimate signal: spot premiums. In a normal market, futures trade higher than spot, but now spot silver is trading above 6-month futures. People are paying a premium for immediate delivery, which means they don't believe they'll be able to buy silver in 6 months. Paper prices are lying. Physical is desperately short. COMEX has 3 options: raise margin requirements, suspend delivery and force cash settlement, or let the market run and watch silver go parabolic. They'll raise margins first and limit positions. But that only works if demand is speculative. If industrial users need physical for manufacturing, they'll pay any margin. If sovereign nations are accumulating for monetary reserves, they'll take delivery no matter what. Then comes Phase 4. Trading halts become frequent. Delivery failures cascade. Futures contracts default. Premiums explode. Spots at $60. But physical dealers are charging $90, $100, $120. Eventually, silver becomes unavailable at any price. Dealers are sold out. Mints have year-long waiting lists. The paper market collapses. Futures trading is permanently suspended. ETFs freeze redemptions. Certificates become worthless. Physical silver becomes the only silver that matters. People holding physical sit back and watch safely. They've already won. This has happened before. In 2001, palladium prices shot up 263% in 2 years. Physical disappeared. People holding futures got crushed, and people holding physical got rich. In 1971, Nixon closed the gold window, and over the next decade gold went from $35 to $850, a 2,400% increase. People holding paper currency lost 96% of their purchasing power relative to gold. The pattern's always the same. Paper claims exceed physical supply, physical demand accelerates system, changes rules, or defaults paper becomes worthless physical explodes. We're watching this pattern play out in real time with silver. This isn't speculation. It's math. Global silver production is 830 million ounces annually. Industrial demand is 620 million ounces. Investment demand is 300 million ounces. That's 920 million ounces of demand against 830 million ounces of supply. The 90 million ounce gap comes from existing stockpiles, and those stockpiles are being drained. Once stockpiles are exhausted, the only new supply comes from mining. But you can't increase mining output overnight. Opening new mines takes years. Physics doesn't care about paper contracts. You can't mine silver with monetary policy. You can't suppress prices forever when physical supply runs dry. The manipulation worked for 150 years because supply exceeded demand. That era is over. Every fiat currency in history has failed. The average lifespan is 27 years. The dollar has been fully fiat since 1971. That's 54 years. We're on borrowed time. When currencies fail, people flee to hard assets. Silver's unique because it's both a monetary metal and an industrial necessity. You can't build a green energy economy, manufacture electronics, or deploy 5G without silver. Governments will suppress the price as long as possible because rising silver exposes currency devaluation. But suppression requires physical supply, and the supply's gone. The Hunt brothers tried to expose this in 1980. They got destroyed because they used leverage and trusted the system. But they proved the system was rigged. They proved the vaults were empty when you demanded physical delivery. Now, 45 years later, the same thing's happening. But this time it's not 2 billionaires. It's China, India, Russia, and millions of investors worldwide. COMEX vault drains, Korean bank suspensions, Chinese restrictions, spot premiums. These are symptoms of system collapse. The window for action is closing. Not because someone's telling you to buy, but because the market itself is screaming that physical supply is gone. When the paper market collapses, physical silver won't be available at any price. The pattern has played out 3 times. 1873 demonetized silver to benefit creditors. 1971, Nixon closed the gold window and precious metals exploded. 1980, the Hunt brothers exposed the manipulation and the system destroyed them. Now in 2024 to 2025, the manipulation is collapsing because physical supply can't meet demand. This time the system can't stop it by changing the rules on 2 men. They'd have to change the rules on the entire world.